And my nieces and nephews are kind of confused because like I only see them, a few times a year. And like I'll come back and they're like, they know me as like Aunt Amy, and they know that I'm like.
So it's
in
not
China.
like who's this random Asian lady? Is she here to clean or cook food?
I know, and I'll be like, oh, you know how like if it's my sister Kathy's kids, I'm like, oh, you know how like Aunt Laura is, your mother's sister.
Right.
I'm also your mother's sister. And they're like, what? And I'm like, like it, we are. But
that's cute.
Yeah, I always joke with them. I'm like, I'm gonna be the cool young aunt. They're gonna tell me about boyfriends and girlfriends.
Yeah.
And,
dude, I'm sure you're a great aunt. Cheers.
Oh, thanks. I try to be. I'm so far away now, but I try to be.
Are you close with your siblings?
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
It was a weird sip.
It's okay. We're gonna slow down.
It's okay. Thanks, Al. Yeah, I am close with my siblings. I mean, it was definitely harder when I was younger just because there's such a big age difference.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think now, like, I wasn't as close to my sisters when I was younger, just, the age difference. And they kind of like started their adult lives like very early. Like, to give you an idea, when I was in 6th grade, just starting middle school, the brother closest to me, he was a senior in high school. So there's that huge gap, and then at that point my sisters were already like married and like moved out and all of that stuff. But I think like we've gotten closer as I've gotten older.
Married young then.
Yeah, my oldest sister got married like the day after she graduated from university. So she was like married at my age.
Damn.
And my mom at my age was already married and divorced actually. So it's very interesting. And my brother, my oldest brother, he got married when he was 24. So they're kind of young.
This is the South.
But I think it's
normal, right?
Yeah,
like that's normal for where you guys were.
I think it's a bit of like the South, and I think like they met the right people at the right time, and that just kind of worked out for them.
Dude, that's so crazy.
Yeah, but I'm like I have a different relationship with each of them, and I think I'm a different mix. But yeah,
good on your parents though, honestly, to do that, and I hope more families do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think adoption's great, but it's not for everybody.
Can I ask you something then?
Of course.
Would you adopt?
Of course, yeah. I think I would. So I've
thought about it?
Yeah, I've thought about it a lot. So growing up, I always thought I would I've always been very open to adopting. But also I think one of my siblings at one point said like they'd be willing to adopt, but I never would want them to feel that pressure. Like, I'm not offended if they don't adopt. Like
it's not a family trait that gets
not
passed
for everybody.
out.
Yeah, that is really not for everybody, and that's totally fine.
Right.
But there are a few things. So like, one, I think I would actually like to foster because there are a lot of kids who need foster parents.
Okay.
So it's just like temporary, and that I think is absolutely gut-wrenching because you have to say goodbye to children. You have to get children
foster dogs, man.
Right. You have to get kids from really difficult situations, but there's such a need in the States, and I think you're able to help more people that way.
Okay.
But also, I'm not like a hippy-dippy green save the world person, but I do kind of worry about like the environment. I don't know, like recycle kit, environmentally friendly. I don't know. So I think like I definitely
100%
want to have one myself, and then I really want to either foster or adopt. Like, I'm very open to it. I thought about this a lot recently because I think I still want to have one myself. Like, and I get that desire. I think
that's evolutionary.
I don't know if it's like
right?
I don't know if it's like fair that not all women have it. I think I have, but it's not necessarily like a natural thing. I think it's like we see movies of women having children, and we see movies about women wanting children, and it's it's whatever. But I definitely want children.
Yeah,
and it's
that's okay.
One
that's
day.
Perfectly
of
normal.
course.
Yeah.
If hopefully when I have a child in the future, that's my birth child.
Yeah,
that'll be the first person, the first thing that looks like me. I mean, it's a joke, right? Sure. We live in China, blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
But that'll be the first thing that, like, bears my traits. I don't know what my birth parents look like. I don't know my real birthday. I don't know my height and weight when I was born. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
So there's so much stuff that's like, it's just fine. You don't really need to know that to know who you are.
That's so cool, though. I didn't even think about it, obviously, because I'm narcissistic. But I think most people wouldn't think about it from that angle, right?
Oh, I mean, it's okay. Like, yeah. And it's funny because when I was younger, I would always, like, if I went to a friend's house and, like, some of my friends look so much like their siblings, look so much like their parents. I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. Because my siblings, like, I think an outsider looking in would say that my siblings look like my parents. but I don't really see it, you know, because I see them all the time.
Sure.
I mean, there are people who think my brothers look like twins. I don't think so.
Yeah. Because you're exposed to them all the time,
right.
obviously. Yeah.
But there are other families I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. And I think this, I can understand. Like, a lot of people, when they hear I'm adopted, they're like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, why you don't need to be sorry.
Yeah. That's a good thing.
I ended up like, okay, like, I kind of like, you know, whatever. Yeah. But also this whole, like, do you want to know your real parents? Right. It's like, okay, like, my real parents are people who raised me. My birth parents, I don't know where they are. And I think my parents did a really good job raising me. They said, you know, you didn't grow in my belly, you grew in my heart. Aww, we loved you so much that we went all the way to China to get you. Yeah. And you had another mother who gave birth to you, but she couldn't take care of you. Yeah. And we don't know anything about them, and I'm so sorry. But we're here and we love you. And so there was never this hole. I think people assume that there's like some identity crisis, so that I need to like know my biological parents or birth parents to like know myself. And it's like, no, I really don't. With that said, I think the only thing I've ever really wanted to know are two things. One is what my birth parents look like. Right. I want like a picture. I think would be crazy, you know. And then the other one is if I have siblings. And it's funny, like, you know, when I take a cab in China, they'll be like, "Oh, like, where are you from?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm from the States." Like, "Oh, but your parents are Chinese." I'm like, "Oh, I'm adopted." And I'll just hit them and we'll talk about it. And they're like, and I've mentioned this question I have, like, "Oh, I wonder if I have siblings," and all of them are like, "Of course you have siblings." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, the cab drivers of China have told me that I have siblings, so I must have siblings." And like, I guess it makes sense, you know. Yeah. But I don't know. These are questions that, like, if they go unanswered my whole life, it's also okay. Because I do have siblings. I have 4 great siblings. I have 2 great parents. I have great grandparents. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Your grandparents are great, you know, your parents are great, I'm absolutely sure, but it's also really cool seeing you now come back here and trying to figure out your own identity without like losing that one, right? Like it's like you're adding to it. So have your siblings come visited you yet, or were they planning to pre-COVID? Or
so when I was in high school, I did a program called School Year Abroad, where I lived in Beijing for a year with a host family. And when I was doing that program, my parents and my second brother, the brother closest to me, the 3 of them came to visit me in Beijing. And then we actually went traveling together in China. We went to Guilin, went to Hong Kong, so outside of China. And then we actually went to Hunan province together, where I was born. And we went to the orphanage.
So you were born in Hunan?
Yeah, Hunan, Xiangtan. It's really close to Chairman Mao's hometown. Which is fun. I could be Chairman Mao's long lost grandkid, bastard grandkid. I tell that joke to Chinese people and they think it's funny, and I'm also kind of like cringe. But you know, so my brothers come, my parents come, and then when I came to NYU Shanghai my freshman year, my parents dropped me off. Yeah. But my other siblings haven't come yet.
Was that part of the reason for you like wanting to come back here?
Well, it's kind of
NYU Shanghai here.
Well, it's funny. So like when I was little, I remember. First of all, I'm not shy, right? And like I remember when I was 5 in kindergarten, a little shy. I would be like, "Yeah, I'm adopted. What's up?" You know, like I was not
deal with it, bitches.
I was not shy about it at all. And I'd be like, "Yeah, I was born in China," like, and all this stuff. And so like, "Oh, that's cool." And I'd be like, "Yeah, when I'm 18, I'm gonna go to China," because my parents had always said that. Thanks. You know, when you're 18, we'll take you back to China, all this stuff. And it happened sooner than, you know, I thought, because one day at my school, this program called School Year Abroad just came to visit. And I heard about this opportunity to go to China, and I couldn't get out of my head, talked to my parents about it. They were very supportive. I applied, got in, got a merit scholarship, said she was expensive. And then went to Beijing, and then kind of one thing led to another. I heard about NYU Shanghai when I was in Beijing doing that program. I actually really want to go to Middlebury because they have a good language program. Didn't get in, but it's fine because I went to NYU Shanghai and they ended up doing this Princeton Beijing language program. So gave Middlebury the finger. And now my Chinese still sucks, but I'm here living and it's fine. I don't know.
I mean, your brain just like runs. It's so fascinating to see you talk sometimes. It's really fun. Yeah. No, that's cool. Like,
smile a minute.
No. Look, I'm watching you talk, and I'm literally seeing new thoughts spurt from the words that are coming out of your mouth right now, which is really awesome. I can relate to that.
I hope no one's like actually watching this. And It's being filmed.
Oh,
if anyone's listening to the podcast, you can go to YouTube.
You guys, there's gonna be at least 6 people who are watching.
Yeah,
this,
I know, right?
You know, your family, Kyle, Brian.
Yeah. If you are watching, I'm not always like some jock douche. I just came from a soccer game.
Yeah.
So I didn't have time to change or shower or anything. So.
Do you have Chinese teammates here? And is it going? Because the Chinese women's, correct me if I'm wrong, the Chinese women's national team is pretty good actually, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I've
Right.
watched them. I watched them in the FIFA World Cup last summer or 2 summers ago.
I mean, they're not as good as
But-
the US, obviously, but like they're pretty good.
Yeah, I think they're pretty good. And there's also professional leagues, but so my team here in Shanghai, it's just a bunch of expats. We do have Chinese players on the team, but like the kind of consistent ones who go to the games. Well, we have like one girl who is from Hong Kong, but she grew up in Shanghai. Another girl is from Singapore, and then you have me. But the rest, you know, but it's pretty diverse. We have like Sweden, South Africa, UK. Where else? There's other places like some Eastern European places, you know,
That you don't know.
yeah, but there are a lot of places.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
You get tired after these games? How are you doing?
I'm good. It's endorphins, you know. I also scooted. I have a scooter. I scooted an hour there and an hour back. So I think I have like a lot of energy from that.
Yeah, that's one of the most beautiful things about Shanghai. Just being that free. Like where else in the world can you just take a scooter through like dead smack downtown, ignoring not ignoring traffic rules, you know. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. I'm so, oh my God. So I used to see scooters on the road with these like bungee cords around their, like, I call it a trunk. It's like the compartment on the back. I'm like, why do they have like a bungee cord? It doesn't seem like security, you know, purposes, because it's really easy to just cut that or whatever. But then, you know, I hit so many potholes with my scooter because, you know, Honolulu is like so many potholes. It's so bad. And that's where I live and I have to use it every day. And after a while I hit so many potholes, my little like trunk container thing, it kind of like broke. It doesn't close properly, so it's like just making this really annoying like rattling noise. And so I was like, oh, that's what the fucking bungee cord is for. I'm gonna go get a bungee cord, strap this shit up so it's gonna stop making noises. Got that.
It's a Chinese way of dealing with that.
And now
it's smart.
Now it's cold. Like one of those like blanket things that you
all
attach
those
to
things
the
are
hand.
the best.
So I was out here with my bungee cord and my blanket, you know, scooting up to, I don't even know where I went today.
Very far.
For this field. But yeah.
It's such a free, it's a really free feeling.
Yeah, it's nice. I like it a lot. And it's funny because like, so I scoop my boyfriend around a lot, Brian. And I feel like really, it's so stupid because it's not a big deal, but I feel like, yeah, Brian's my bitch. Like, I'm scooting my man around. I'm taking him to work. Like,
Brian's gonna be one of the 6 people who watched this.
Yeah,
you know?
sorry, Brian. I love you so much. No, but lately he's been like, I want to scoot, and so I've let him drive.
First of all, 2 people on a scooter is illegal.
Yeah, it is illegal. So like, it's always
for
been
legal
illegal.
purposes in China.
It's always been illegal, but only the past like few weeks has the police like started to care, which has been kind of annoying. I got almost a ticket the other day with him on the back, but
almost.
Well, like I got pulled over and then they didn't give us a ticket. They just said we could keep going, which is fine. But when I let him drive, it's kind of nice because I think they don't really want to bother with foreigners.
Yeah.
So I just hide behind his white face. I like kind of bury my face in his back, like
pretend like you don't speak Chinese.
Yeah, like I'm Korean. I'm sorry. You're not adopted. It's not like
I think about adoption. I would adopt 100%.
Oh, but I guess I mean like
fostering. What I never thought about until today, but like how you put it, I agree with.
So I never thought about fostering either. But when I was a sophomore, there was a girl from the New York campus who came to NYU Shanghai. She was on our soccer team. Her parents came for the end of the semester just to see her, whatever. We went out for dinner, the whole team, and they heard that I was adopted. And they're like, oh, that's very interesting. Because we thought about adopting, but, you know, we fostered a lot. And we thought about adopting, but...
That's interesting.
Yeah, but they said, you know, we wouldn't be able to help as many kids. But, and there's such a need. And from then on, I was like, wow, I want to foster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting. China really has a big issue with that, from my understanding. I think there's actually a lot of orphanage. I had a good friend who went volunteer at an orphanage a couple years ago. You know, that's just what I never think about this, but obviously by numbers, China would have a lot of orphans as well.
It's interesting. So like I used to call it an orphanage, but that's like a different term. They call it a welfare center. Because I'm not an orphan necessarily.
Right.
I probably have birth parents, right? They just were like, oh, don't want you. You know what I mean? So it's different. So it's like it's fully yuan. It's like a welfare center. It's not guar yuan. It's different. It's very different. Yeah. Like I haven't heard of like guar yuan. It's fully yuan.
What's the difference? I guess in orphanages they take
an orphan means your parents have died.
Oh.
Yeah. I wasn't 90% sure. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But welfare centers like yeah. Oh, it's actually very interesting. So born in Hunan province from this specific place. But then I watched this documentary called One Child Nation.
Yeah.
And it's about, have you seen it? It's on Amazon Prime.
No, I think you've asked me this before.
Well, it's about the one child policy.
Yeah.
So it's not about adoption. And there's documentaries about American Chinese adoption, and those are kind of cheesy and like that. But this one is just about the one child policy, and it's like a Chinese person investigating it. And she found that back then there were like international adoption is just a part of it, but like a lot of people were abandoning their babies. And there was this huge scandal back like in the 90s in Hunan province, actually. This huge bust of these people who were like trafficking babies, and they were made to seem so bad, right? Like basically taking babies, selling them to orphanages.
Right.
But then this documentary kind of shows they were called matchmakers. These babies were left to die,
right.
In so many places, and they would take them.
Yeah.
Or they would hear about a baby, and these parents didn't know what to do, so they'd give the baby to these people.
Yeah.
These people would take them to orphanages. And they were honestly saving lives.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I think, like they were good. They were painted, kind of a negative light, which is a political thing, won't want to get into. But like, so I could be from anywhere in China is what I'm saying.
Right.
Is,
it's just that's where you were picked up.
Right, and that's where I was taken, and that's where I ended up. And so, but I could be from another province, but I don't think I could have gone like that far. Who knows? But birthplace, birth date, height, weight, all that stuff, like don't know. But it's okay.
I think it's okay. Like when I met you, you seem like a happy, healthy person who has a strong family. I'm like, what else do you need, right?
Right.
Because I'm the very much opposite. Like in China, I think they always say blood is thicker than water, right? Like just because. But I'm like, no, family is like earned. It's earned through how much time and love you give someone. It sounds like your family did a great job at that.
Yeah. It's so funny, right? Like back to the cab thing. Like cab drivers always be like, "Oh, is your American family good to you?"
Right.
I'm like, "Yes, they're good to me.
Yeah.
Like they're
Why
my family."
and
yeah.
But there's also terrible stories, right? Like you hear,
yeah.
I was reading some shit. Apparently, there's like a lot of this is a little different adoption, but apparently there's a lot of like mail ordered brides still going on today.
Oh no.
In like Asian to Asian countries, because you know how a lot of Japan and Korea has like a old single man syndrome. Like there's a lot of men who just did those like working jobs where they just work crazy hours. Now they're like 40s and 50s and they're single. And basically there's the governments are saying this is one of the issues. I could be wrong, just to work it, but this is one of the issues why we have underpopulation. So to supplement that, there's like government subsidies and stuff like that for you to essentially mail order a bride from like Southeast Asia.
Oh my god.
So this is no longer like, Vietnam to the UK or wherever. This is like within Asia.
It's local.
Yeah, this is like going on right now.
Oh,
and there are some terrible stories about there with terms of like abuse and everything like that. And it's a real issue. I don't know how the fuck we got on this. Sorry, that's my fault.
It's okay.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I need to come a little closer for the mic. Yeah.
No, that's okay. Yeah, that's pretty rough.
Yeah. But this is what I said during the break, right? Like we think adoption or is
think something negative. Yeah.
A negative thing because that's how we're programmed to think. Because of like movies and there's so many superheroes I think who were like through orphanage and things like that, right? But I'm sure there are a lot of success stories, and maybe we should hear about those more.
Yeah,
you'd be one of them.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, I think it's funny, like, in movies you'll see siblings tease their like little sister or little brother, like, "You're adopted," and it's like it's so funny because it's like, is it being adopted bad? Like, I mean, if my siblings ever said that, I'd be like, "Yeah, no shit," like, you know what I mean? But it's so funny because I think being adopted, there's so much choice in that. Like your parents are actively choosing you. You aren't just like a result of like a drunk night out. You know what I mean? It's no offense to those people, you know, that's also fun, but it's so intentional. It's so intentional. It's the most intentional. Okay, to give you an example, my parents, was like a year-long process. They had a social worker come. They had to be, there's so many requirements China has.
Right.
Like you can't, your combined age can't exceed 100. You can't be overweight. You have to make a certain amount of money.
Well, this is for Chinese government, for like foreigners to come and adopt in China.
So if white people want to adopt, or anyone, if people want to adopt a Chinese baby, right?
Not just white people. We're open to business for everyone.
Yeah, whatever. But if foreigners want to adopt a baby from China, I know
white people would probably get a bonus knowing China.
Right? Yeah, probably. But there's, you know, it could be updates to the laws, and international adoption is way less common now. It's more like, you know, whatever. But your combined age couldn't exceed 100. You can't have any history of mental illness. You can't have more than like 4 children, maybe, or 5 children. Like you can't have a ton of children
your
already.
Your parents were at the max already.
Right, right. And you have to make a certain amount of money. You can't have any disabilities. Like it's very strict, very strict.
Yeah.
And it's sad because there are stories of like people going to like Europe and people just adopt kids for the government benefits. In their home country.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, it can be.
And really, selling them off in like child labor and sex trades.
Right. But there's so much intention. So like basically it got on this because, you know, a social worker would come to your homes, all this stuff, like, but it took like a year, and you know, my parents went through all of that to get me, and it's like,
that's how it should be though.
Yeah, my mom jokes and says like anybody who wants to have a baby naturally should also go through this process. But there's so much intention. So if some kid on the playground says like you're adopted, it's like, that's such an honor. Like you have no idea like how much intention goes into that.
Yeah, it's such a good way of looking at this, because I feel like a lot of people see it as the opposite of that, right? Like,
right.
Oh my God, you're left behind.
And it's like that's there, and you know, every adoptee has their own journey with this. Like, so when my mom went to adopt me, my dad stayed at home with the 4 kids, and my mom's parents went with her. But they traveled in a group of like 12 or 14. Cool. It's like
a classic. This should be a Hollywood movie.
Oh, that's sweet. It's not that interesting. But like they traveled in a group. So, you know, I was adopted with a group of girls, and we would have reunions every few years. So I knew those girls. But growing up, I didn't really know anyone else who was adopted except for my cousin, who I abused. I love her so much, but I was the youngest of 4 siblings. They, you know, bullied me like they bully any little kid, any little sibling, I'm annoying, right? So like any annoying little sister. But then I had my cousin Claire, she's adopted as well. She looked up to me so much, and I was on such a power trip. I was so mean to her. I love her to death.
How old is she?
She's 4 years younger than me.
Okay.
So she's like 18. She's just going to college now. But anyway, so aside from her and aside from this group, there wasn't really a ton of adoptees I hung out with, you know. But I'm on these like online Facebook groups, you know, and I see all these people, and a lot of them struggle, and it's very different, and it's everyone's journey. Like I feel very lucky because I think my nature is just to be, I don't know who I am, but my parents did a really good job of raising me and not really leaving any room for these kind of like insecurities or these holes to be this identity crisis to form.
And yet you have one, or?
No, I don't think I have one. I think it's always been pretty chill. Like I think I definitely have been like more in touch with my Chineseness, whatever.
But like maybe that's just a phase. I've heard about it in situations where, you know, people do that, and maybe they find it, maybe they don't. And obviously you're in a point in your life right now where you're discovering things and figuring out who you are.
Yeah, so I just graduated from university, right? I just started my first job. What was I? Whatever. But it's first real job. Yeah. But I think anybody at this age probably goes through like some kind of like, who am I, whatever.
Yeah. But
it's not really because of the adoption thing. If anything, that's something that I...
It has nothing to do with that. You're just fucking 22 and you just gotta paint the town red sometimes.
Exactly, exactly. I think that's something that's always been pretty constant, like very grounding.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people assume it's like this big question mark, or it's like a part of my life that would lead to a lot of questions, but it's actually been always very grounding. It's been something I come back to that's like, I know this. Yeah. You know, and like this is who I am, and it's very grounding. I don't know. But yeah, like other people I think have different kind of relationships with, you know, their identity as an adoptee. But I feel very.
You're just an everyday, normal fucking human being, right? Like that's not you don't have a sticker that says adoptee or anything.
Right,
yeah.
right. I mean, it's always like a fun fact, you know. And I think it's
makes for good Tinder bios.
Yeah, it was a really good Tinder bio for like. It's so annoying. So I'm dating someone now, and not every day, but like sometimes I think of a great Tinder bio, and I'm like, I can't use it, which is fine. But I'm very happy.
You
with
can
my
sell
boyfriend.
it. You know, there's a website where you can sell like Tinder services.
Yeah. Tinder bio copywriting.
Yeah, whether it's like bio stuff or even sometimes it's like messaging.
Wow.
Right, because like you can, but then that's like within the same city.
That's so fucked though.
Why?
That's not you. That's not you.
But you know, some people they just need like the entrance. Okay, they just need to like set the stage.
Bio fine, but anything after that.
Picture services, you know, like they'll help you take photos.
Oh, that's fine. But conversation, no, that's not okay.
Not even just like the first 3 convos.
No,
but just to like break a lot of guys don't know how to break the ice.
That's their own problem. No, no. But yeah, it's a fun Tinder bio. Mine used to be what was it? It was like fair warning. It was like fair warning to all the white boys with high hopes.
Yeah.
We're not going to end up together.
Yeah.
Because I'm adopted and I can't be looking like an in-law in my own family.
That's a good point.
So true.
That's a good
like
point.
so
That's
true.
Funny.
Thank you. It is funny because you know it's funny growing up. This is what I was going to talk about. So being adopted is really funny because no one assumes you're adopted because that's not super common, which is fine.
Sure.
So growing up, if I had like a white friend over, we say we go to dinner.
Yeah.
And it's like my parents, my white friend, me. I look like the friend.
Yeah.
You know, and so if I'm in my family, I'm gonna look like the in-law.
Right.
Oh yeah, white man finding a nice Chinese girl. You know, no, it's me. This is my family. You know, but it's funny. So when I was younger, I looked like the friend. And then there was a period of time where I looked like the exchange student. And now I look like my mother's mentee.
Yeah.
And then I'm starting to look like the nanny.
Yeah.
And then my grandfather's geriatric nurse. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
funny.
really funny how it kind of goes on. And now I think with my last name, I'll look married. Maybe. But I'm not. So it's, you know.
Not yet.
Yeah. But it's funny too, because when I was younger, I used to think, I can't wait to get married. I can't wait to change my last name. Yeah. DeCillis is so fucking confusing. Like I went to this camp growing up. World Sports Camp. Kids from all over the world playing soccer, whatever. Like, and they called roll and they're like, Sarah Ling. And they look right at me. I'm like, it's not me.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, Amy DeCillis. I'm like, that's me. And they're like, DeCillis,
people look at you
really?
Like, what the
Are you sure?
fuck? Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, I'm sure that's my fucking name. I'm Amy DeCillis, you know, so it's confusing. But now that I'm older, I'm not changing my fucking last name when I get married. Like, I'm going to own that.
You should.
I'm going to be Amy DeCillis for life. You know, it's very Googleable. If I want to get famous, it's me and like one other white girl in New Jersey. Okay. So it's, you know, pretty much me. So if I want to get famous, I need to keep my name.
Right.
It's a lot to change your name. Change your license, change your passport.
Logistical issues.
I have a whole website, amydecillis.com. I'm not changing that, you know? Yeah. So sorry, future husband, I'm not changing my last name for you. Because why?
Shouldn't. If you don't want to, you shouldn't.
Yeah. But it's also like, I like it. You know, it's before I was ready to change it. Now I'm like, no, that's part of me. Yeah. You know, this whole weird adopted identity, you know, whatever.
Wasn't that like a fucked up thing? We had to get women to change their last names?
Yeah, no one should have to change that. I'm not going to make a guy. I'm not going to make a guy change his last name. Like no one should change their name. In China, they don't change their name.
No.
I'm fine having my kids take the husband. I don't care.
Like, in a lot of cultures, they don't change their names. It is just like a European thing. I think back then it was like a European thing, like a British thing, right?
Yeah.
And then it was for like land property ownership or shit like that.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll give my kids like a double-barreled last name, but I won't make them take my name. They can take my husband's name, whatever. But I'm not changing my name.
No, you shouldn't.
If a man like gives me a good enough reason to, then sure. Yeah. But also, if he can't like handle me keeping my own name, then like,
depends on the number of the bank account, right?
Okay.
Like that. I'm kidding. Yeah. Half kidding.
Yeah. Someone actually, Daniel Chong, one time was like, oh, you want to go to law school? We have to think about something. Do you want kids? And immediately I was like, fuck this shit. You never asked men that question. And he's like, because if you want kids, you know, you get out of law school, you have like a few years to practice before you get pregnant, your husband's going to inherit all your debt. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. I don't need to rely on my husband for money. I can be the successful one.
Right.
Okay? Like, fuck having a guy pay for my shit. You know, I will also make money. I didn't go to school and do all this shit. I'm also capable of doing this, right? And also, I can work and have children. Like, I'm really tired of this whole, like, oh, like, working moms are bad moms, or, like, you know, all the, you know, like, you can't work when you have children. It's like, well, we don't need maternity leave. We need parental leave. We need to give men time to take off work. You know? And I know you don't disagree. I'm just saying, like, things that people don't really think about. And I was at this AmCham conference. You want to check out my LinkedIn? I post about this. I went to this AmCham, American Chamber of Commerce conference. It was a we for she, some feminist bullshit thing. And, you know, these panels with these Asian women, or they're all, I think there was a white girl too, but, you know, all these women successful. And this woman in the crowd asked them, you guys are all very successful, but how would you score yourselves as mothers and wives? And I was sitting in my chair like, what the fuck? Did you see this bitch ask this question? No one seemed phased. Yeah. And then later, the very last panel had some men, and they're out there like jerking themselves off. Like, yeah, we have all this maternity leave. It's great. Maternity leave, blah, blah, blah. And I, you know, grabbed the mic. I was like, hey, so someone at the conference earlier asked, you know, blah, 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 blah. But I was furious because men are never asked this question. Yeah. So I'd like to ask the brave men of the panel, how would you score yourselves as husbands and fathers? And everyone clapped. And I was like, yeah, fuck that. And then I was like, and also, you know, I heard these great maternity leave policies, but what about paternity leave? I said, because if we only give opportunities to women for taking kids, then we will only expect women to take care of kids. You need to give men opportunities as well to kind of take away this
paternity leave would be great. You know, that's a great reason to start a new video game or binge watch a new TV series. You know,
that's what you do with your paternity leave?
Well, I'm not gonna have paternity leave. Like, let's be honest. But
I feel like one day you would have a kid.
No,
I feel like you'd be so into like being a dad, teaching you. I mean, Kyle's
it would depend. Sorry, no, exactly. But it would depend on where modern child labor laws were, and if they were more lenient, then maybe I got a kid.
What, you're gonna put your kid to work?
I would. No, I've thought about this. Like, a basic parenting I've thought about was just like, I would want my child to earn things as young as possible, even if it's just like, hey, like, put your toys away. You know,
I mean, allowance, let's allow it. You know, that's
maybe not even with money, but just like that understanding that there's.
Hey, you put your toys away.
Yeah, there's a transaction involved. Yeah,
for sure. On the iPad. Yeah. Well, but then they should just want to do it because they want to do. I don't know. You can figure out parenting.
I don't think about this. I do not. I've stated multiple times on this podcast.
I think you'll meet the right person. You'll have kids. Yeah. And it'll be great, and you'll be a good father.
Oh, I don't know, Amy. We'll see.
I think you'd be a good father. By like the 5th kid, you'll be good. Yeah.
By the 5th kid? Should we do adopt one? Let me open another bottle of wine. Yeah.
I'm